So we're going to go and get started. Fab. That's my cue. Okay, great. Um, Let me have everybody who's not named Yuka put themselves on mute. And Yuka, you can take yourself off of mute. Okay, great. And then Yuka, just say one word because I just want your picture to come up.
Okay.
Say
Can you
something
hear
else
me?
because it's not registering. A little bit louder and a little bit longer.
Can you hear me?
There you go. Okay, perfect. Awesome.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I will now officially start. Good morning, afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining us today for the Global Chambers Monthly Export Import Forum. I am the moderator, Anita Rodal, president of SBPI Services. SBPI Services represents several currency exchange companies and helps global businesses lower their rates and fluctuation risks on their cross border payments. For US based businesses, we also broker working capital and equipment loans. In addition, I offer private pronunciation coaching via Zoom for foreign born business professionals who want to speak region neutral American English. Our forum today is 55 minutes long. The last 5 to 10 minutes, I will open it up for Q&A. But in the meantime, everybody who's not named Yuka or Anita, please keep yourselves on mute. Got a couple of networking tips for you, please. First of all, it's a very good idea to use your first and last name, as most of you are doing here, so people can find you afterwards. If you are a Global Chamber member, please put an asterisk in front of your name. I just keep mine on there, even when I'm not on Global Chamber meetings, because no one else knows what that means. Um, if you have your business name on there, just right click on your little square and you can rename yourself. And second, make sure that you put all of your contact information, first, last name, LinkedIn, email, phone number, if you so choose, in the chat so that people can find you again afterwards. And don't forget to save the chat. There's three little buttons at the top. And if you click on that, you get a little drop down menu that says save chat. And then you can go over it at your leisure and catch anything that you didn't catch during the meeting because there's a conversation going on. So today we are very, very lucky to have the amazing Yuka Nakasone with us. And I will tell you a little bit about her. Um, you may see my cat radar coming. Nope, he's going a different direction. That's fine. Okay. Anyways, Yuka Nakasone is an international growth strategist and globalization expert. With over 30 years of experience in international business, Yuka advises companies on digital transformation, market entry, and global expansion through her consultancy, Global Bridge. She is also the executive director of the Global Chamber in Spain, where she connects senior leaders, organizations, and business ecosystems across borders. Prior to her current roles, Yuka held multiple senior leadership positions in the localization and globalization industry, including serving as a globalization and localization director for international technology startups. In these roles, she led marketing, product, legal, and operations teams for multilingual content creation and international product launches. Her work has helped organizations successfully streamline multilingual operations and scale across regions by aligning language, technology, and cultural strategy. Yuka is a sought after speaker on topics that include international growth, innovation, AI, and the future of global business. She was a visiting lecturer at the Center for Translation Studies at the University of Surrey in the UK, where she co led a localization strategy workshop for future localization professionals. Currently, Yuka lectures in master's degree courses at La Salle Ramon Llull University in Barcelona. Originally from Japan, Yuka enjoys her multicultural life with her small Franco-Japanese family on the Mediterranean coast near Barcelona in Spain. Welcome, Yuka. That
Thank
is
you very
multicultural
much.
and multinational right there. Okay.
Yes.
So we are going to start off, as I always start off my interviews, with three very quick icebreaker questions. It's like speed dating, but for the export import form. So in 60 seconds or less for each of the following three questions, tell us what got you into this business.
By accident.
Okay, good. I love it. That is the best two-word response I've ever heard. Fab. Okay, now tell us what you like best about what you do.
International. Interesting.
Cool. And what do you like the least about what you do?
Maybe it's too much when I want to do everything.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, you absolutely, if I had an award, you would get the award for the best and briefest responses to these questions. So now we're going to go to our in-depth questions. But I want to
Yes.
tell you all a funny story first, as a little preamble here. So I had never heard of the term localization until I started attending Global Chamber webinars back in at the end of 2020 when I first met Doug. And that's when I met Yuka. Evidently, the term localization was coined sometime in the middle of the 1980s. However, in 1980, I was working on my undergraduate degree. I was finishing it up, and I actually, it turns out, did my senior thesis on localization, only it wasn't called localization at the time. I had put together a study that looked at how a few different types of consumer products like cars were marketed differently in different parts of the world.
Uh-huh.
So there you go. Fast forward a few decades, and here we are. So now we're going to get into the crux of the questions for you guys. So first question I want to ask you. I know that they're very intertwined, but what are the definitions of and the distinctions between localization and translation?
Okay. So definition, there are technical terms that I use when I work in localization. Globalization, localization, internationalization, and translations, they have their own definition. And the equation is globalization equal localization plus internationalization. And translation is a part of localization because localization is not only adapting language aspect of the product or services that you're throwing into another country, they take care of two more aspects, which is functions and culture. So localization is, let's say, a translation plus functionality adaptation and cultural adaptation. Sometimes when we do localization, this is a tricky part. We don't even have to translate. When you
I get that.
export
I totally
something
get that.
from the
Yeah. And we'll
UK
talk about,
to
yeah,
the States, you don't have to really. It's
yeah,
adaptation, but not translation. So that's
yeah.
the definition.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. And I will add to that, there are differences in vernacular. In the UK, they tend to use the word scheme when they mean program or something like
Mhm.
that. A scheme in the US has a very negative connotation, like you're scheming and you're doing
Yeah.
something nefarious. So it's not translation, but it's
Yeah,
I'm guessing that's part of localization. Okay.
exactly.
So why is localization not just translation, but the foundation for exporting?
Because as you can understand, you need to sell your products or services. Otherwise, why why do you export, right? For you to appeal the local or foreign audience or customers, you need to give the products or services that they would buy, not that you want to sell, right?
Other side. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Um, so, oh, but I didn't ask you about the bird's eye. Like, before we go any further, like, give me more of like the bird's eye view of what we're talking about
Mm,
when we're talking about localization.
mm. So um,
Or
I
do you
don't know
feel that
what.
we've already kind of covered that?
Yeah, I mean it's really like adapting the products or services that you throw into the market um, to the audience. And it can happen. There's a term called hyperlocalization, which can happen within the country. I mean, from the New York States, if they want to sell something in California, maybe they need to adapt something. That's hyperlocalization. Or adapting by generations, hyperlocalizing. by generations in the same country, or maybe I mean, there are lots of layers. For example, the United States is so vast, so big, so huge. You don't even have to go out to sell foreigners, foreign language speakers, right? I mean, there are
True.
lots of
True.
Chinese speakers, there are lots of Spanish speakers. They
Yeah.
may resonate the products that are localized into Chinese that they understand. And there's a study about how people buy, because people buy not because they think it's good, they 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 buy it because they want. It's emotional,
Mm.
right? If you
Yeah,
did
no, that
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 kind of
makes sense.
study,
Yeah. Yeah.
when
Absolutely.
yeah, so when you want to engage somebody emotionally, the language is the key component, because surprise, surprise, your emotions are determined
Yes.
by your native language. Even if
Yeah.
you lived
Uh,
for a long time in another country, for example,
yeah.
I react as a Japanese person because in my subconscious there's so much information accumulated until like maybe 22. So I
Yeah.
can't really get rid of how I operate as a Japanese person, even if I'm speaking in English, right? So
Yeah.
if you think about it, it's really important for you to translate or adapt the language that resonate resonates with your target audience.
So, but let me
That's
ask you
what,
something.
yeah.
You've lived outside of Japan for a very long time. You lived in the US, you live in
Mhm.
Spain. Um, Even though your gut instinct, if something is in Japanese, you kind of like revert back to, you know, the culture of what you grew up with. Do you feel that your culture, your Japanese culture, how you identify or how you hear things has changed because you're not living in Japan anymore? Like, do you perceive things differently now in Japanese, having been outside the country, as opposed to somebody who has never left Japan?
Yes, because I worked on myself a lot, so I know how I react. I see myself how I reacting, and
Uh-huh.
I can see that that's changing as well. But
Yeah.
I can explain. When I was living in the United States, I lived in Boston for about 3 years, working for a localization agency, one of the biggest in the world.
Uh-huh.
Um, my boss was French. Okay, I was Japanese. My boss was French, and we usually talked in English. And once he got mad in a meeting, one on one. He started to scream at me, saying, I don't understand what you're saying. Is it yes or no? I was like, what? You know, because he asked me something like, um, do you think this is a good idea? So I said, yes, but something negative. So in his mind, hearing yes is yes, it's a good idea, right? But I said something negative. So he was like, what? And that's very Japanese way of speaking. The first yes is yes, I heard what you said, and this is my
Oh,
opinion, which is negative,
oh,
right? And
uh-huh.
I was speaking in English, not Japanese, and French person in the States. My way of being is totally Japanese. If I operate sub unconsciously, maybe I'm much more Japanese than I think, you know.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Hmm.
It's like the whole way of responding, like
Oh
you're
yeah.
softening it, but and then you're giving the good news, the yes, but interesting. Okay, that's amazing. Um, okay, so let's see. So I'm not talking about regulations, paperwork, FDA approvals, tariffs, non-tariff barriers, etc. When I ask what kind of preparation, like we've done that, been there, done that.
Yeah.
So tired of that. We've got to move on, which is why I'm so happy to talk to you today. Although I love all my guests. When I ask what kind of preparation or characteristics a company
Uh-huh.
needs to do to have in place before entering a market, like what are those things?
Yeah. So first of all, I always tell my prospect, prospective clients when they come to me saying, "Hey, I want to export. Hey, I want to do another language on the digital world, blah blah blah." My answer is always the same. So, how well are you selling in the original
Mhm.
market?
Mhm.
Okay, because um, here's the tricky part. People just think if we localize the product, that's done. It's not. To sell it, you need pre-sales, post-sales, you need contract, you need everything if it's, digital. And if you are exporting something like a car, like you said, you
Mhm.
need much more adaptation, much more preparation. You need to comply with everything on the road, right?
Mhm.
So the localization is going to be huge, which means if you're not doing well in the original market, it's not going to happen, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
and going to a foreign market is one of the growth strategy, which is one of the most complicated because when there's always the ceiling of your market share, right? So
Yeah.
if you do really well in a country, you're going to hit the ceiling of the the market share, right? Of the local market.
Uh-huh.
Then you need to think, how can I grow from here? Yes. So the easiest is take your client and get something related, another product, another services through it to grow without without involving involving any language, any adaptation, just new product, new service. Or maybe you can choose another sector in the same market, vertical. If you're selling um, targeting something like hospitals, maybe you can do laboratories, or you can do something else that is similar, you know, in the same market. And if you're digital and you can do copy and paste of product or services very easy, maybe you can go for localization, which is globalization, globalizing, internationalizing your service or product, but which which opens another market, which is the same as your local market. Your effort is maybe twice as much, and knowing that you're not understanding the language as your native language, the CEO or the directors, the chances of struggle is much more. Yes. So as a growth strategist, and I do growth with localization and taking people internationally, but I don't recommend. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Um, so what about when you're exporting to a country? Okay, we already talked about that speaks your language. So I want to delve into this a little bit more. Like, you're a Spanish manufacturer, you're going to start exporting to Peru or to
Hmm.
Argentina or Venezuela,
Hmm.
UK to the US. I mean, even within our bi-coastal borders, there
Hmm.
are differences. We say wallet on the West Coast, they say pocketbook. On the East Coast, we say tennis shoes. On the West Coast, they say sneakers. on the
Yes.
East Coast.
Mm.
So there's all that that comes into play as well. But we know what people are talking about because it comes in the context of whatever's being said or written about. But um, what else do people need to be aware of when they are, it's same language, but going to another country? Like what other layers then go into that?
Yeah, so as I said, it's not just translation. It's not replace, replacing one language into another. I mean, you're talking about the same language trade from UK to US, Spain to Peru, this kind of situations. I mean, you really need to be aware of cultural differences, really. There are so many failed, not success stories, failure stories, very famous. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know.
we'll get into that.
Yeah,
We'll get into that shortly because I had Googled it, and then I know that you had
yeah,
already studied a couple, but we'll get into that just a little bit further down. But yeah, okay. So it's I mean the cultural aspect cannot be removed or ignored.
yeah. For example, what kind of payment gateway? Talking about a very easy way of going into another country. If suppose that you're selling something through e-commerce, right?
Mhm.
It's digital, so if you have a distribution center and if you secure how you can fulfill from contracting the local fulfillment company maybe and
Mhm.
call center in the local market and translating the localizing the e-commerce site, um, is it enough? I mean, it's very very tricky because translating the website, e-commerce site, it's not just sufficient because maybe in Spain we use more Bizum to pay, more Mastercards to pay, but maybe in Latin America there's another way of paying. I know there's something else. So
Yeah.
payment gateway is a function, um, architectural level of function on the website. So you need to have everything kind of planned that you can switch these kind of functions very easily when you go to another market, which is called internationalization. And
Yeah.
so it's not straightforward, and it's, as you can imagine, Amazon have UK site, Amazon have US site. Um, it's very different. It's it's just e-commerce, and
Yeah.
they're completely different, right?
Yeah, but I think that has a couple parts to it because I was going to ask you about this. So, I mean, because I've actually, like, I have friends in the UK and I've sent them Amazon gift cards. And I have to go on the site there and do it through there. I use Amazon in Spain when I'm there. I have a whole separate account. But it's more than, I mean, so it's every country has their own regulations and they're moderating that as well. But if you're just on somebody's website and it gives you like a translation option, and they always do like English UK or US, and I get that. I don't see so much Spanish like Spain versus Latin America. But that's a form
Mm,
or an attempt at localization as well, right? Other than the fact that we use
mm.
Z's and British English uses S's and we use OR and they put OUR. I
Yeah.
mean, those are
I don't
spelling
remember.
distinctions.
Yeah, yeah. I don't remember the exact word, but for example, e-commerce site of sports brand, maybe Nike. I don't remember which one, but
Uh-huh.
their sites are different by country,
Okay.
for Spanish speaking countries. For example, in Spain, this is camiseta. T-shirts is camiseta, but in Latin America is totally different. And from country to country, maybe it's different,
In
so
Venezuela, it would be a franela.
granera. And I think I don't know, but there's a couple of words. So people search the product. If it doesn't hit, you can't sell. So
Right.
that's the basic thought. Why we localize? Because we want to sell, right?
Okay, interesting. It never occurred to me that franela was not a universal word for t-shirt in
No,
all of the Spanish speaking world. That's so
no.
th- uh, boom. Okay. Thank you for that.
Mm.
That's amazing. Um, okay, so before we hear about the actual failures, tell me what are some of the common causes of failure when companies try to circumvent the process of localization? Then we'll talk about the actual examples.
Circumstances, like, yeah, I mean, they just don't think about the that another another country has totally different set of people, totally different set of way of living.
Mhm.
Yes. So just they lack imagination, I guess.
That's interesting. That's actually kind of like mind
I
blowing
like it.
because marketing people are supposed to be imaginative, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Manufacturers, when they've created something that
Yeah.
requires imagination, and yet I guess it stops at the door. They're like, it's like, here's the product, now you come
Mm.
get it, as opposed to, I need to bring it to you. I need to bring it to the world.
Yeah, maybe, I don't want to talk bad about anybody,
Of
but
course.
maybe the word is arrogance.
Oh, okay. They just think that what they've done is the best thing ever. And it might be for a particular subset,
Yeah, I
but
mean, I
not.
saying like we conquered all other parts of Europe. Why not this? Or we are number one in the UK. This is the failure case. We are number one in the UK. The next is the US. We just have to we just have to tweak a little bit, and we can just copy and paste what we do, and we're going to be number something. That's wrong. They don't hire local people. Do you want to hear the actual failure case of this?
Yeah, yeah. Give me as many as you can think of.
Yeah, I mean, this is the brand name. The number one UK supermarket chain, I think
Uh-huh.
it
I know which one it
was
is. Tesco?
Tesco. Tesco.
Tesco.
It's a very famous case. They
Yeah.
were hitting the number one and they want to grow, so they thought, yes, of course we can go to the United States because we all speak English and we just don't have to do too much, right? And they chose the place and they went there to put the strategy similar to the UK and failed
Uh-huh.
because in the UK people live buying smaller amounts, you know. In London, definitely people hoping to pop up in a store to buy some grocery on the way back home. So
As opposed to everybody driving here. They walk over
everybody's
there. They walk
driving.
in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where you're going to put the store is going to be changed. How you put the shelf, I mean, is different.
Uh-huh.
And if they're going to come with a big you know
Big
big
heart.
carrier or just a basket or
Uh-huh.
or 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 you can't really sell a gallon of milk in London. I mean, you have to be smaller to carry,
Ah,
right? All
yeah.
these things are not thought out, so they failed really. I mean, this is a real case, and if you Google, you can have a look about this case. This is a real
Okay.
case. And for
Uh-huh.
example, to Japan, there are several cases. IKEA, they thought we
Okay.
conquered everywhere, and we are Scandinavian. We are simplistic. We are Zen. We are design. Us, I guess. They failed. They couldn't sell because Japanese people wouldn't buy if it doesn't fit into the Japanese house. And Japanese houses are very, very famous for being rabbits. You said,
What, compact?
smaller,
Oh,
smaller,
compact. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
compact. So you
Yeah.
need to use the measurement that Japanese people use. it's
Yeah.
it's completely different mindset when a Japanese person consider to buy a piece of furniture, for example,
Yeah.
and definitely not a huge store outside of Tokyo. People in Tokyo usually don't have a car. It's you don't need to have a car. So mm, the business model just don't doesn't work
Doesn't
in
work.
Japan.
Wow.
So they went back and they came to Japan again now several years
Uh-huh.
ago, and they're succeeding. I guess they
They
learned.
learned the lesson.
Yeah, and Carrefour, um,
Oh, Carrefour, the
French,
grocery
yeah,
store?
yeah,
Yeah, they're all over
French,
Spain and everywhere. Yeah.
yeah, it's French supermarket. They
Yes.
failed going to Japan as well.
Wow.
And what else? I mean,
Well,
there are lots
why
of
did,
things.
same thing? Same thing. I mean, Carrefour they're all over. Like, I go to Tenerife every year. So,
Mm,
I see them there and people walk to the market there. They also have like little rolly things that they bring.
mm,
So but I don't see anybody selling gallons of milk there anyways. They're also the Tetra Packs, and they're
yeah.
usually only like the equivalent of a
Mm,
quart, but they come in packages of six, so they're very heavy. So
mm.
everybody goes with their little rolly things. So why did Carrefour not do well in Japan?
They came the same strategy as in France, you know,
Oh,
and
okay.
and actually the
Mhm.
products are different. Um, no, really. I mean,
Interesting.
and the distribution system in Japan is very different. So that's very challenging for supermarket chains. And I can tell you who succeeded in this world. Amazing successes. I can tell you one success. Um, do you know an app called Evernote? That is note taking, kind of elephant green logo with note taking. It's kind of old, but they they succeeded entering China when Google, Microsoft, Adobe, everybody else failed.
Oh, why did they
And
succeed? Uh-huh.
they succeeded in Japan. After from Silicon Valley, they went to China and they went to Japan and they succeeded. Japan is one of the most difficult markets. I mean,
Uh-huh.
not to say the most difficult, but I'd
Mhm.
say it's really difficult, but they
Yeah.
they they succeed. And I went to see people in Beijing, Evernote Beijing, and I figured out. There's a document about that as well, but I went to
Uh-huh.
see them and to talk to them to see how they really do it. They hired local people who would understand English, not sending English-speaking people to Beijing
Okay.
who speak
Chinese.
Chinese. The
Yeah,
mentality is different. Local
absolutely.
people, executives who would understand English, they are all responsible to creating a Chinese brand equivalent. So
Okay.
they changed the name. Google, Microsoft, Adobe, all these people, they went with their own name. They didn't change logo. They didn't create it their Chinese name. And Evernote,
Uh,
they didn't sell as Evernote. They created another name in Chinese characters. The logo was kind of the same, but completely localized product, localized marketing with localized brand name, and nobody knew that it was English. It was coming from
and
US.
who cares? Because they're making the money they want to make. Their whole point is they want to
Yeah,
expand to, to increase their revenue.
yeah.
It
So
doesn't have to be their original brand name.
mhm. So if you ask me what's the key of success,
Uh-huh.
exporting things is to hire local people, but there's a
And
but
that,
because
yeah,
it's expensive.
yeah, no, that makes sense. And that kind of leads me into my next question that I want to ask you
Mm,
because, for every exporter, there's an importer.
mm,
So if an importer is the one that initiates something, they go to a company that's
mm,
manufacturing something in another country in another language and says, I really want to bring your product here into the US.
mm.
I mean, obviously the onus is on the exporter has to agree to make whatever changes.
Yeah.
To what extent can the importer or what to what extent should the importer let them know what they need to do? Should it be the importer then who reaches out to somebody like you, who's a localization expert, saying, I
Mm,
want to import XYZ product from, say,
mm,
Spain? What do they need to do? What do I need to tell them to do
mm,
so that it will be the right fit when it comes into the US? Like,
mm.
where does the
So
importer interact with the exporter?
yeah, so if you're an importer, you know all the legal stuff and compliance and blah blah blah. So that's a
Yeah,
great point. And that's something that is an exporter from overseas may struggle, as you know, right?
right. Yeah.
Um, if if you see something that needs to be changed because this is not compliant, because
Uh-huh.
this doesn't go through FDA, whatever, you just need to tell, right? The product is the same. Hey, this needs to be written in this way. The name doesn't sound good. You need to change. That needs to be communicated with the
Uh-huh.
exporter or the company that owns the products.
Right.
Does it
Yeah.
make sense?
Um,
There's
so
there's no interaction with the localization specialists. No. And
but what about but for everything that's not regulations and the technical stuff, it's still a product. I mean, I'm not talking about like French wine or Spanish wine where, who doesn't love a good tempranillo, but something that would need to be localized. Can the if the importer is going to be the one doing the grunt work, you know, on the receiving end, because they're initiating it, they're like, I want to import your product. Would it make sense for the localization process to happen here and have them
yeah.
tell the people in Spain, for
Mhm.
example, what they need? Or does it have to happen on the Spanish end as long as they understand it's
Yeah.
what needs to happen if they're going to send it to?
Because, for example, I exported some sparkling wines from here to Japan,
Uh-huh.
and of course they wanted our original etiquette. I mean label,
Yeah.
design, blah blah blah. And this
Right.
came as a request, so the brand here hired me to to do whatever. But I worked with the importer as well. So I was in the middle of exporter and importer to make this happen. But
Mhm.
I guess this needs to be done by exporter side.
Okay, because it's their product, they're the one that's
Mhm.
responsible for it. Yeah, and I guess I mean obviously there are times where something people are importing something specifically because it is different, because it is the French wine, the champagne or whatever.
Mhm.
Like that's the inherent value, the brand value. I get that.
Mhm.
But the labeling and everything else still has to conform,
Yeah.
to whatever. So I guess it's an interesting balance. Um, okay, so let me ask you this. What are three things that people should be doing if they're properly no, like let me change I've changed my mind. I want to ask you something else.
Mhm.
When should a company reach out to you as a localization
Mhm.
expert? Like at what phase? Like when do they bring you in?
So because I'm the growth strategist using globalization equal localization plus internationalization,
Mhm.
mm, when you think about I want to grow and I'm
Mhm.
thinking about internationalization, like I want to maybe I want to sell this in foreign countries. And it's maybe, you know. Sometimes people come, hey, we are selling this in foreign countries. Can you come in? That's a mess. That's a mess. I mean, I
As
went
they
into
say,
this,
the
yeah.
horse has left the barn. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I went into this tech startup. When I went into the company because they
Mhm.
need it, they really need it. I saw it.
Mhm.
They had 11 languages. They had a SaaS product platform, right? And
Mhm.
they localized it by themselves without having any professional because uh, wife of whatever developer was French, so she contributed for French, and the cousin of whatever was English speaking, so they did English speaking. Um, uh,
Nightmare.
go on, go on, go on, and I had 11, and Japanese was done by intern, Japanese intern. Oh my God,
Oh
because
my
they're
goodness.
not professional. They don't know um,
Right.
uh, digital product localization, which needs a certain way of doing, certain tools to
Yeah.
be used. Um,
Yeah.
they didn't know. So I turned off 6 languages. I asked, we can't show this to
Yeah.
French people. It's better to just shut down. So,
Don't do it now. Yeah. No, that makes sense because you never get a
mm,
second chance to make a first impression.
yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
and it's if you are thinking about selling something internationally, like this
Mhm.
company from the beginning, when you need to bring me in is before starting, meaning this SaaS platform was badly done. The architecture, software architecture was not internationalized. Internationalization is a process to facilitate localization because I told you that localization is a process to copy and paste the the product or services in other markets so that we can sell more. But what if the cost is more than what we can sell? It's a failure, right? So
Right.
for any kind of product, we have a process called internationalization. This is a technical word, not business internationalization. This is the internationalization of product. Um, to build the broad product, the base product, to facilitate localization. Meaning, for example, if it's digital product, it can show CJK, Chinese, Japanese, Korean language without any problem. We can make the menu from this library. We can just switch from one country to another. Blah blah blah. If
Mhm.
the base architecture is not done in this way, no localization specialist can do any good job. It's waste of money, and you really
Yeah,
need to think from the first. So I
right,
recommend, if you do e-commerce or digital product, just check with somebody who knows internationalization,
right.
not really localization. Localization specialists know internationalization in engineers. This is engineering and
Oh,
designer.
okay. Interesting. Okay. That's a whole different
And
side.
designer.
Yeah. A
Design
designer.
needs
Okay.
to be easily localized, right?
Right.
From the beginning.
Got
So
it.
that's what we do. And localization specialist is working with internationalization engineer, localization engineer, designer, everybody.
Okay. So that's the structure, the entire
Mm,
structure has to change,
yeah.
which it's not something you can touch, but it's what supports the whole thing. Okay, cool. So we have just like a few more minutes. I want to open it up for questions. If anybody has any questions or comments, otherwise I do have one more question for you, but I want to make this at least a little interactive. So if anybody, oh, Jim, okay, Jim, take yourself off mute. Go for it.
I'm always famous for my odd questions. Following you online, Yuka, what language do you think in?
Ah, a great question. I'm thinking, for example, right now I'm thinking in English. If you tell me to say this all in Japanese, I have to think because I have to translate. But I dream sometimes in Japanese, depending on who comes into the dream. Maybe in French, maybe in not Catalan because I don't speak Catalan, but Spanish, of course. I some reactions comes in
I'm not asking.
Spanish.
I'm not asking the internal translation. I'm asking what if you have to make a decision.
Hmm.
What language in your head makes you go through the process of saying yes, no, maybe,
Depending on depending on which language I'm speaking in that moment, because switching from one to another is not obvious. So if I'm speaking in English, maybe I do it in very Anglo-Saxon way of deciding. And if I'm speaking in Japanese, maybe I act as if, not as if, as a Japanese person to decide something.
curious.
Yeah. What I found, because I speak two languages, you speak more than me, Duca, but once you get to the point where you are dreaming in another language, so
Mhm.
if I'm speaking Spanish, I'm swearing in Spanish, I'm counting in Spanish, I'm
Yeah.
doing whatever. If I'm talking to somebody in English, I'm swearing in English. No, actually, I take it back. Most of the time, I swear in Spanish no matter what. It just turned out it was a much better language for swearing, kind of flows. Um, but if I'm counting in English, I'll count in English. But so I think that when you like are totally enchufado, like plugged into whatever the other language. You're way past the translating stage. Then you're
Oh
thinking in
yeah.
whatever language you're conversing in because it would be cumbersome. Like that's
Yes.
the goal of learning another language is to be able to like not go through the step of translating, which just makes everything longer. So
Yes. Yes.
at least that's been my experience. Um, so
Absolutely.
yeah. Yuka, I wanted to ask you, can localization
Mhm.
apply to real estate development? So let's say you're building
Yes.
housing in California, student housing in Canada, student housing in
Yes.
Barcelona.
Yes. For example,
Things have to change, right?
uh, there's in this is the sector I'm touching a lot. Um, um, yes, of course, there's an internationalization of the product. I mean, making a base products in such a way that you can take it from one country to another, because we are industrializing construction right now, and this needs to happen to provide so many houses everywhere in the world. I mean, there are housing crises everywhere except for Japan, maybe. Um, and and for example, if you take a unit of a construction unit, I mean, Spain is exporting construction unit, like building unit or module
Yeah.
to African
Uh-huh.
countries. That's a fact. And they may be using different type of plugs, different diameter of tubes. They are
Uh-huh.
all regulated. They're all regulated how you need to do it. So you need to first think about how we can make it easier, a product that is easier to localize or take it to the foreign country and adapt very quickly. So
Got
that's
it.
the thought we need to have. And I have this kind of project as well.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good, good, good. I have some people I want to introduce you to
Yeah.
them. So we are pretty much out of time. So let me just thank you all very much for joining us today for the April Global Chamber Export Import Forum, and special thanks to Yuka. Was amazing talking with you. It was worth the wait, I have to say. If you enjoyed today's discussion, I hope you'll join us next month on the fourth Thursday of the month, which will be May 28th. And in the meantime, check out the calendar for the Global Chamber. You never have to be alone. If you can't sleep, they're doing a webinar somewhere in the world. You can just jump on. So that's it. And that's globalchamber.org, by the way. So thank you so much. And we will hopefully see you all next month. Thank you,
Thank
Yuka.
you. Thank you for inviting.
Rose. Happy St.
Rose.
George's Day.
Yeah.
San Jorge.